Hi there, and welcome to today's session on how to supercharge your shopping performance. My name is MJ. I'm a Google shopping specialist, and I work across a large number of retailers here based out of Dublin.
And my name's Genevieve. I'm an account manager, so I work on Google Ads, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Google Shopping, and I work with our luxury brands.
Yeah, perfect. So to kick off today, we're going to chat through the agenda. First up, we're going to talk through how to prevent and recover from suspensions and disapprovals. Secondly, we're going to perform some hygiene checks and how to optimize your data. And then lastly as well, we're going to look at how you can execute a shopping strategy aligned specifically to your business goals.
Great. So when we work with the brands that we work with, and we talk about striving for shopping excellence, we really kind of work on three different areas. So the first area that we think is really crucial is just being on top of your disapprovals. So you want to make sure that all of your shopping activity is kept live. You can have the best possible strategy in place and the most clever things, but if the most important of your products are offline or even your whole feed goes down, then everything else kind of goes out the window and you're just missing a lot of revenue there. And then secondly, we really work on the hygiene aspect. So we tend to see that the better your shopping hygiene, the stronger your campaign performance, your CTRs tend to be higher, your CPCs tend to be lower, and we can just really give you a lot more impressions because we just know better what products you're selling, and we know that users are interested in those. So that's kind of the second area that we work on, is just to make sure that all hygiene is in as good of a shape as it can be. And then lastly, once those first two buckets are in place and covered off, we really look at the shopping strategy that we have in place. So rather than just thinking about shopping ads as a way to attract traffic, we hope that we can get brands to think about it as a way to drive specific business goals. So whether there are certain products you want to push, a certain city that you want to do better in, or any number of business goals, we have a number of solutions in place that we can kind of bring to you and just make sure that you can use shopping ads, not just as a way to get traffic, but really to execute on those business goals that matter most to you. So with the brands that we work with, we can kind of see that some of them are sort of in different stages of maturity when it comes to shopping ads. And so the first kind of bucket, we would see that there are some brands who don't have any shopping activity live, or they have very minimal investments for a number of reasons. In the second bucket, we would kind of see brands that have some shopping activity live, but they don't really have a specific strategy that they're driving. Their hygiene might not be in that good of a shape, and they would have many disapprovals, either across individual products or just feeds going down every so often. Most of the brands that we work with would kind of sit in the third bucket. So they would be optimizing towards a certain KPI that they care a lot about, such as a ROAS target or a cost of sale target. And their hygiene is in pretty decent shape, maybe not across all products, but across the majority of products. And because of that, we can surface about 90% or more of their products on shopping ads. What we're trying to do here from Dublin in our account management and our shopping specialism teams is we're trying to get everyone into the last bucket. So it's a point that I made earlier. You want to be thinking about shopping ads, not just as a way to drive traffic, but really to reach those specific business objectives that are going to make your brand or the client that you work with grow the most. All hygiene metrics would be green, and there would be no disapprovals or warnings in place. And that's really what we kind of want to try and achieve for the holiday season this year. And then I think also that that's kind of the ambition that you want to be setting for yourself as well. So if we start with keeping your shopping activity live, it isn't the most sexy of topics, but again, it is the one that if you get this wrong, you can do everything else right, and you're still, unfortunately, not going to get anywhere. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind here, so I'll run through those quickly. Firstly, and I'm still surprised by how often I don't see this in place, but just make sure that we can notify you when there's an issue in your merchant center. So you can log into your account and put as many email contacts in there as you want. We used to only be able to add 2 email contacts, which was kind of archaic, but now you can add as many as you want. And then we just know that we can send you an email if there's an error processing your feed, or if you receive any warnings. You just want to make sure that you stay on top of those. And then secondly, even outside of the emails, I would highly recommend that you just make it a daily habit to check that your account isn't at risk of any suspensions. So kind of maybe once you've made your cup of coffee in the morning and you check your daily news and your inbox, just quickly open your merchant center and have a really brief look. Just see that there's nothing new popping up there. You just want to stay on top of it. And then lastly, if you know that you don't have any account suspensions in place, kind of the next bucket that we would look at is the high impact item level issues. So there might be specific issues with items that you used to get a lot of clicks for in the past, maybe something broke in your feed or whatever, for whatever reason, we can no longer serve that product. Just make sure that you fix those, because we tend to see that much revenue is being driven by few products. So you just want to make sure that you stay on top of those products that are most crucial to you. In a similar vein, once there's no actual issues, we still tend to surface opportunities where we feel that we could get you more clicks for that product, even though there's nothing wrong with them. We would try and surface ways that you can optimize that product. So check your opportunities tab. We would surface anything related to product data quality. So maybe your title is a bit long or your title isn't that rich. We could highlight that for you. Sometimes we even suggest campaign bid and budget recommendations. We're always working on this system, so just make sure that you regularly check back in the opportunities tab, because we're trying to improve that for you on an ongoing basis. Should you run into the very unfortunate issue that your site goes down, in the past it used to be the case that you would have to re-upload your feed, and that's no longer the situation. So at the moment, if your site has gone down, you don't need to re-upload your feed. Just make sure that we can crawl your website as fast as possible. And this is something that your webmaster has control over. So if your website has gone down, just make sure that your webmaster isn't restricting how fast our bots can crawl your pages. We will re-crawl the products first that get the most traffic. So if you have suffered from a site outage, once you start getting clicks and once your feed starts going live again, you'll first start receiving clicks on those products that would be the most popular. So if you do see in your merchant center that it takes a while kind of for your products to show again, rest assured that we'll first serve those products that we know are most important to you. And then lastly, and I think this is a very nice feature that we don't see being used that much just yet, but take advantage of supplemental feeds. So that's a feature that allows you to only upload certain columns or certain parts of your feed. So if anything's broken in your main feed, or if there's anything you want to update or highlight, all you need to do is send us those columns that you want to adjust, and then put a sort of matching item. So usually that would be an item ID. And then we can replace the core part of your feed by that supplemental part. So if, for instance, you're using the wrong color or the wrong brand name, just only upload those parts, give us the item ID, and that's a really easy way to fix your feed without maybe having to go back to the feed provider or to the main feed, which can sometimes be quite a hassle.
Great. So yeah, now that we've the basics in order, let's look at some of the proactive hygiene and optimizations to enable you to maximize results on your shopping activity. First up, yeah, and surprisingly again how many advertisers get this wrong. First things first, ensure that you target all your inventory. Essentially what I mean by this is that all the products that exist in your feed, ensure that they're targeted in your Google Ads account. Simple solution here is just create an all products campaign, or what we call a catch-all. Set it to low priority and low bid, and make sure there's no exclusions on that campaign. Now, once you set up that all products campaign, if it starts to receive a lot of traffic, it's just a watch out. It could mean there's something symptomatic, or it could mean that's a poor campaign setup overall. So that's one thing to watch out on. Second to that, when it comes to ensuring high visibility and search relevance, there are key attributes within your feed that you need to pay special attention to. For example, title. Title plays a pivotal role in terms of query matching. So it's important to include all your important product information in your title. For example, if you have a really strong brand, it makes perfect sense to front load that brand at the start of the product title. Or if you have color, gender, age, size, yeah, definitely include those if they're key product informations. Second piece is obviously the first thing a user will typically see is image. So capture the user's attention by providing a high quality image. Second thing as well, it's a no-brainer in terms of price. Ensure your price is just kept up to date. Keep it up as fresh as possible and make sure it's aligned to the price on your site. And this will avoid any price mismatches, and unfortunately as well, it'll avoid any subsequent disapprovals as well. So make sure you keep your price up to date on that one. When it comes to G10 and brand, these are called unique product identifiers. Essentially what this means is basically we use these attributes in the feed to identify and determine what exactly you're selling, what are the products you're selling. So ensure you continue to provide those attributes in your feed going forward. When we look at keeping your product price and availability up to date, and Genevieve touched on this a little bit earlier. It's important that you ensure that you have automatic item updates enabled in your account, and that you are providing schema.org and that it's correctly implemented on your site. This will reduce the risk of any price availability mismatches, and also as well you can leverage supplementary feed. For example, include your item ID column and also include your price availability column as well. It's a quick and easy way, but just update price and availability. So that's definitely one to watch out. Following up for that as well, I'm sure that a lot of you will have sales coming up. So important one to get ahead of is ensure that you include your sales price attribute and your sales price effective date to schedule any sales that are coming up in and include those in your feed. I suppose the additional benefit here as well is that once you include that sales price attribute, we'll actually help surface price drops and sales badge annotations on your shopping ads as well. So that's can give you a little bit of a competitive advantage there as well. Actually, speaking about competitive advantage, another way of standing out against your competitors is by utilizing and leveraging merchant promotions for specific sales of products that you might have coming up during the peak holiday season. One thing to watch out here as well, it is only available in select markets, so make sure you take note of those markets on the screen now. I would urge you, just from past experience, definitely get ahead of these and make sure that you plan and you set up your merchant promotions ahead of time. Should there be any issues, just contact your POC, your account manager, on this as well. So typically, on the last point here, typically we see a lot of advertisers, have core products or priority products or categories that they really want to drive and own and be visible 99% of the time on Google Shopping ads. So the main thing here to do in simple action is create a priority campaign on high priority and high bid. This will allow you to actually monitor those products within that campaign very easily. And the second piece to note here as well, look at your competitive benchmark metrics within Google Ads. It's really crucial to understand how competitive you're being, especially coming into the holiday season. Two metrics that are fundamentally of importance is impression share and absolute top impression share. For anyone who doesn't really know what absolute top impression share is, essentially it shows a retailer how often they show up in that top position. And again, why is that important? That top position garners the majority of clicks. So if you're not there, you're potentially missing out on a lot of traffic. So one thing to note and a key recommendation from me is keep an eye on impression share and absolute top impression share when you're coming into the holiday season. Great, so now we've looked at the proactive hygiene and the optimizations. Now we're going into strategy. So how can you execute a shopping strategy that's aligned specifically to your business goals? Typically retailers, they don't just have one goal. They probably work towards a number of goals at any given time, whether it's like driving footfall to store, increasing profit, pushing stock, growing sales, or increasing overall awareness. Luckily enough for you guys, shopping ads on Google can actually let retailers optimize directly to these goals. For example, whether it's increasing awareness via showcase ads or shopping ads and image search, whether it's acquiring new customers via similar audience or driving footfall via local image ads, or, which we'll touch on later, it gets a little bit more to the advanced, but whether it's managing your inventory or increasing your profit through the use of custom labels in your Google Ads account. These are all some great solutions that you can definitely leverage and take advantage coming into the holiday season. One thing to note here, though, on certain solutions are only available in certain markets. For example, showcase ads, shopping ads on image search, local image ads, and local catalogs. So please take the time to check in to see if these solutions are available in your specific market. So now, looking at specific solutions a little bit more. If your main KPI, your main goal is to increase brand awareness and consideration, Showcase is the perfect solution to engage a user early on in the purchase journey when they're just deciding or just discovering what to buy and when to buy it. And actually, it can be a key differentiator for your brand and give shoppers a bit of a more flavor of what you have to offer in terms of product selection. The process is pretty simple, to be honest. It's you simply upload your branding, your lifestyle imagery. One thing to note here as well, there's a beta on video that's just open for whitelisting now as well, so that's one to watch out for as well and keep an eye on. From there, you just create a specific campaign target for Showcase, and then you just measure your sales and any engagements that go with it. One thing to watch out here as well, an important one as well, in the US, the automatic version of Showcase has been deprecated, and the plan is to deprecate across other markets as well. So what this essentially means, if you don't have Showcase set up in your Google Ads account, you won't show up on the Showcase format. So potentially there could be a potential risk of loss of traffic. So ensure to prioritize that now and get your Showcase ads set up in the Google Ads account. Perfect.
Great. So next, if your brand or the client that you're working with has stores, then we absolutely recommend making use of our local inventory ads format. So for those of you who aren't aware, if a user searches for a query and you have local inventory ads set up, we'll actually surface whether that product is in stock. And we saw last year and a couple of years before in peak period that knowing that a product is going to be available in a certain store is one of the key drivers that will actually get people into your store. So it's really nice if you have stores and if you are able to get the data together that you make use of this format. There's a bit of an extra setup required if you just compare it to normal shopping ads. But once you have it set up, it's a fantastic way to just make sure that you drive traffic to your specific stores. And you would then measure the success of that either by looking at sales, but also by looking at store visits rate. Then moving into the slightly more advanced sort of areas, and I think this is one of the most exciting areas that we can work on with brands, is to think about, as I mentioned before, the specific business objectives that you want to achieve with shopping ads. What we tend to see, and I think this is becoming more and more of a problem, is that only about 60% of all stock that brands have tends to be sold at full price. And then the remaining stock is marked down or sometimes even just has to be destroyed, or just it can't be sold. And it tends to be quite costly if your stock sits in your warehouse. And so what we do with some of our brands is we just help them identify what stock it is that they need to shift. And then we help them promote that through shopping ads. So what you can do is internally chat to your trading teams and your product teams to just get a visibility on what those products are that need to be sold. And then just make sure that you give that a custom label in your feed. So you can pick one of the custom label columns to dedicate to overstock or high stock, and then just split those products out either in a separate campaign or just break them down into different ad groups. That will allow you to specifically bid on those products. In some cases, or actually in many cases is what we found, it's cheaper to have a poorer ROAS on those products and sell them through anyway than it is to have them sit in the warehouse, especially if it's bulky products or low price products. So think about that, have that discussion internally if this is something you want to achieve. And we've seen really good success on this working with our brands. In quite a similar fashion, you are going to have in the peak season, you're going to have product with higher margins and you're going to have product with lower margins. And to have the same ROAS target for both, you can do that. And we see many brands do that. But the more advanced level would be to kind of have different ROAS targets for those specific products. So again, chat to your trading teams and try to understand which are the most crucial products to sell through. And then just put that as a higher margin item in the feed. We would recommend then breaking those products out into a separate campaign that has a high priority. And what that will do for you is if a user searches for a query where we can match multiple products, we'll then surface the product that you put as high priority, which ideally then is the product with a higher margin. So that's really a good way to think about just making sure that you drive the traffic that's going to get you the most revenue. And then lastly, and I think this is something that's slightly more suitable to smaller brands, but if you don't have time to manually manage a shopping campaign, it's too complicated, or you just don't want to for whatever reason, there is a new campaign type that you can make use of called Smart Shopping. All you need to do is set a budget, connect your products, and if you want, you can give us a ROAS target that you're looking for, but you don't even need to do that. And then we'll try and serve those products not only on the search results page, but even across our display network, YouTube and Gmail. We tend to see that if you use this format compared to normal shopping ads, we can actually deliver about 20% more conversion value. So we'll optimize towards different audiences, we'll trial what CPC works best for you. And so we kind of take all of the work off your hands. If you want to be quite particular about which products you sell and kind of all the stuff that we just talked about, this might not be ideal for you. But if you don't have that much time and you just want to make sure that you maximize visibility of your products, then I think this is a fantastic solution to use.
Great. Yeah, so just to recap on some of the recommendations from today's session. First up and most important, define success. Be very clear on how shopping will support your business objectives. From there, it's all about, making sure the feed is in good nick, resolving those issues early on, ensuring the right data is in your feed, like Genevieve talked around the custom labels piece. Yeah, ensure the right data is in there. And then also as well, supporting that, ensure that your campaign structure is actually set up in a logical fashion to support your overall objectives. And then when it comes to the bidding piece and the measurement piece, it makes perfect sense to have your bidding and your measurement piece aligned with your core objectives as well. So that's it really from us. Hope you found it useful, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much. Have a good holiday season. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.